I would love to wrap change up in a little parcel and give it to people as a gift. There you go, there's a gift, there's change, there's that growth mindset. But you can, it's all internal.
What inspired you to launch Smash It training?
So I think training for me is an interesting topic. So I originally set up a sales training company and I focused on sales. But as the business evolved, I realized actually the content is the same in leadership and change, and it's so integral to everything. But I think that a lot of the people that I do training with are the younger generation. So when it comes to the terminology, a lot of training is dull and boring. We've all been on courses that are just dull. And smash it is such a contemporary phrase, isn't it? People say, oh, you smashed it, smash it. So I trademarked smash it. So I own smash it, the trademark. And I decided that really it's time now to put some contemporary things in that do make an impact. And it's training and coaching, because sometimes training is like a puddle in the hot sun. It just evaporates, but it's that combination that makes the habit forming changes. And I love to work in the change arena and really get people to enjoy change, embrace change rather than fear it. So that was the cause. That's why I set it up, because what I do works, and it's just a case of sort of getting it out to more people.
How would you describe intrapreneurship methodology, and why is it important in business?
I think it's imperative in business because I think it gives people autonomy and a chance to create. So one of the things I do in my talks is I bring a picture up of, I say to the audience, who's this? And pretty much nobody knows who this man is, but he's actually Tony Fidel. And I say, he's called Tony Fidel. Does anybody know who Tony Fidel is? And they'll say, no, I still don't know who that man is. And then I bring a picture of Steve Jobs. So actually, Tony Fidel was the intrapreneur who actually developed the Apple iPod. So going from the Walkman to 1,000 songs in your pocket was not Steve Jobs, it was Tony Fidel. And then obviously the iPod developed into the iPhone. And so it's Tony Fidel's fault that we spend so much time on screen time. But if you look at that, like, you know, there's a couple of things that I'm pretty sure, I wasn't at Apple when they developed it, but they didn't do it right first time. And I think that's that entrepreneurial space that you give people, the space to be able to create new things. But one thing that they did at Apple was they created a space, a growth space for people to try things and be allowed for it not to succeed. And again, that's what we see in entrepreneurship all the time, but that doesn't always happen in bigger organizations. And that's what I try and bring through. So the methodology, I had to come up with a methodology because it's okay to say, oh, you can be entrepreneurial, but what does that mean to my audience, or what does that mean to the people in the organizations? So what we look at is 3 strands of entrepreneurship. What would I do if it was is the umbrella. So what would I do if it was my first day? And we really look back on our first day and we're excited. You know, we've got our Sunday best clothes on, you know, we're bringing our A game. But then you look, you know, a year, 2 years, 10 years down the track, is that energy still there? So getting the employees to remember that first day experience helps to re-motivate them and re-energize them again. And then the next part is, what would I do if it was my best friend? Because especially in big organizations, people don't like everyone they work with. And they're sometimes vocal that they don't like that. And that's, again, a big catalyst to the breakdown in communication, or stops change, or really stops them working together. So I'm a DISC practitioner, which is where the psychology side, I love psychology, and really getting to understand the people that you work with. Because if you understand the people that you work with and why they make those decisions, you know how to adapt your behavior to get the best out of that relationship. And I think that's where in organizations, everybody has to be adapting to the team, and it's not just one adaptation, it's adaptation to individuals. So that to me is a huge piece. People love that part, because I do an analogy that I take them back to school. And have you ever met somebody you don't get on with, and this person finishes really fast, and this person's like a butterfly, they're all over the place, and this person's like worrying about people's feelings and headaches, and this person's like literally carrying on to the last second. So I do a wee analogy, and I think that I've been told by people that have done things around psychology and behaviors and discs, but they've never managed to envelope it in one like concise message. And again, coming back to that contemporary, and especially with younger people and attention spans, you've got to win them over quick. So I think that's one of the things I think is really important. And then the last part is, what would I do if it was my business? So, really, would you be sustainable? Would you take paper out of the photocopier and use it? Would you recycle? Would you do that? And I think that's where I did some work with the European Commission around their projects on entrepreneurship. And that was one of the things, like they had created some really good internal projects which helped them to think like entrepreneurs, and really sustainability, diversity and inclusion, all the things, well-being, anxiety, all those things, would you do this? And I think that's where I know for a fact, based on my research, that the top performers always feel like they're running their own business. But a lot of people, like entrepreneurs, they don't know where to start. And I think it's given them that starting point to make those changes, which really makes a difference to the performance of the organization.
What are your top tips for engaging a demotivated workplace team?
So I think there's a lot of demotivated workplace teams. And I think one of the things, you can't tell somebody they're demotivated. And if you say, are you demotivated? They'll probably say, no, I'm not demotivated, not me. It's getting them to realize that. So when we when I'm doing a talk or I'm doing a session, under the entrepreneurship, what would I do if it was my first day? The first thing we do is mindset, right? It's just because you've got to get people to realize that there's a difference between a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, or we call it first day mindset or 30-year mindset. And it's really interesting because when you can explain the difference, they will actually, in their head, they'll be going, that's me. I go, oh, tried that and it didn't work. I've done this. Oh, I'm forever moaning. And they'll identify their mindset themselves. And that's where demotivation and fixed mindset go hand in hand. And I think that's the honesty, really getting people to admit to themselves that they are demotivated, because when they're honest with themselves, you can draw the line in the sand to make the change. Because if they don't admit that they're demotivated, it's really hard, because change isn't, I would love to wrap change up in a little parcel and give it to people as a gift. There you go, there's a gift, there's change, there's that growth mindset. But you can't, it's all internal. And I think until people realize that, you can't make the shift. So I think getting people to be honest. Then the other thing is, once they've been honest with themselves, first of all, and the person that the team they're working with, is work out why, what motivates them. And I think that's the interesting thing, especially now with the change in, the generational change, that people now want more than money. They want more than money. But if you can work out what motivates somebody, then that's how you can work with them individually to create that mechanism. And again, people say, oh, just give them a pay rise, do this. Actually, and you've mentioned that you're doing your PhD. So if you've got somebody in your team that education and strong further knowledge is important to them, that's how you would motivate them. Actually say, right, well, do you know what? We can help you through that, or we can reduce your work hours. And they'll value that. And I think that's the gap that lots of people don't know how to motivate their team, because they don't actually understand them enough, and they don't know enough about their internal workings to know how to motivate them. So yeah, and then follow that through. Literally, a lot of people talk the talk and they don't walk the walk. If you've got a demotivated team member, you've really got to start putting that coaching in place to be able to work out that change for them. But I think this is the other thing, that not every member of every team is in the correct role in the correct organization. So I think, are they an asset to the organization? Can they be moved into another department that will remotivate them? Or actually, is this organization just not for them? And, I talk about contemporary, it's probably not contemporary, but there's this man called Kenny Rogers, and he wrote the song The Gambler. And in the song, it's got, you got to know when to hold in, know when to fold in, know when to walk away, and know when to run. And again, like you can't sell to everyone, you cannot remotivate everyone. You've just got to work on that ethic of getting to the ones you can, and then really get the other person who maybe is beyond it, because someone with a fixed mindset will spread that mindset further and faster than someone with a growth mindset. So I think you've got to be mindful that you can remotivate people, but you've just, make the right decisions at the right time.
How can businesses cultivate a positive and innovative workplace culture?
I think it's really that same as this sort of, the intrapreneurship model. And I think, one of the things that you'll know yourself from the industry that you're in, that, you get a speaker in who talks about this or talks about that, talks about the next thing. I think it's not about just getting a speaker in to talk about a topic. It's about really, really living and making it be the change. And it's really interesting. During lockdown, one of the organizations that I worked with, they were really struggling with all of those things, that they were demotivated. They'd had to let some people go. The other thing is they're all over the world. So they had an office in Sydney, an office in Hong Kong, UK, Canada, and the both sides of the US. Wow. So can you imagine trying to communicate not only virtually then, but on all those time frames? And one of the things, literally, it couldn't have gone any better. But I think that the way that happened was we started off with the senior leadership team. And I think this is one of the things that I've worked in organizations, and the senior leadership team will say, yes, it's for them. They need to change. These people over here. No, we don't need to change. They need to change, not us. And that's so wrong, because if you're going to change, everybody has to go through that program. Everybody has to know about fixed and growth mindset. Everybody has to talk Alison Edgar's big balls. And if you don't run it through the organization, that's when people say, oh, we tried that and it didn't work. But they didn't try it. They half-heartedly tried it. If you are going to do something, it's all in. And I think that's the thing. Change doesn't come at the bottom with these people. It comes at the top and it works its way down. And that's where that shows that people are talking the talk. Actually, I've gone through this program. This is what I've learned. This is what we're going to do. Not that you're going to go through this program and you're going to change. That's, again, that's where I see it goes wrong in organizations.